Hey everybody, welcome to Hat Hole Home Video. I'm Brian Q. That's me, not you. Unless of course you happen to be Brian Q from Impractical Jokers, in which case I gotta say, get out of here. I'm still kind of mad at you for being a Brian Q that got famous before me. There's like 11 of us in the whole world and you had to go frink up the algorithm for me, didn't you? Who am I kidding? I can't stay mad at you. Look at this face, he's adorable. Anywho, if you've been watching this channel for more than maybe 5 minutes, you've probably heard me bring up the fact that I grew up next to a video store back in the 80s. And it was through the VHS tapes on those shelves that I became a rabid movie fan, and specifically a horror movie fan. And it seems to me like a lot of horror kids from the 80s and 90s have had kids of their own, and those kids are hitting an age where parents are starting to think about getting their kids into the horror movies that they loved back in the good old days. And you can't jump right into ultra gory, graphic nudity, hard R-rated horror, obviously. You need training wheels horror movies that are scary, but not too scary, and that maybe lean more into the fun side of horror. So I thought it would be fun to maybe point those parents in the direction of the movies that turned me into a horror fan as a kid. And obviously this is just really an excuse for me to walk down memory lane, but we're putting it in the guise of helping parents. And I think it's worth pointing out too that the 80s was a really amazing time for dark, scary kids movies, and those are kind of their own sort of training wheels horror. But that's not what this video is about. I would like to make a separate video about that at some point in the future. Leave, likes and subscribes and comments if you'd like to see that video. But specifically what we're talking about today, we're not talking about scary kids movies, we're talking about legitimate horror movies, but that kids could start to get into. Monster Squad! It's basically the Goonies fighting the Universal movie monsters. Monster Squad made such a huge impression on me when I was 7 or 8 that to this day, if someone talks about Dracula or Wolfman, my first thought is not Bela Lugosi or Lon Chaney Jr., it's Monster Squad. It has real scares, it's very funny, it has that group of misfit kids going on a spooky adventure vibe, and it has very high, very real stakes. That is a vampire pun. It is a fantastic movie, not just for this list, but for almost any movie list. Gremlins! Alright, look, I have thousands of VHS tapes. I couldn't find my copy of Gremlins for this video. I'm very disorganized. This is very unprofessional, so forgive me. You know Gremlins. Imagine the cover of Gremlins. I'm sorry. Look, I know what you're thinking. Gremlins is a kid's movie. Gizmo's a little cutie. No, your memory tricks you. Gremlins 2 is basically a live-action cartoon, and I think that tone has coated everybody's childhood memories of the franchise. Gremlins 2 is great, but a horror movie it is not. The original Gremlins terrified me as a kid, and I loved it. It does start like a kid's movie, but by the end it is full-blown, unironic horror. Deadly Friend. I first saw this on late night TV. I'd never heard of it, went in blind. Hey, back before streaming, we had to watch whatever was on the TV. But it turns out that was the best way to first experience Deadly Friend, because it starts like a G-rated family movie about a teenage whiz kid who built a robot buddy. And that's what I thought I was watching. But then sinister elements creep in, and it escalates into full horror. I love this movie, but I'm not saying it's a great movie. I'm just saying it's a solid 80s horror movie that kids could ease into. Night of the Comet. Now this, in my opinion, is a masterpiece. A comet dustifies 99.9% of all human life. Only people who were shielded from the cosmic rays survived, and some people who were only partially shielded become comet zombies. Great cast, tight storytelling, plenty of scares and tension. This is probably the movie with the lightest horror elements on this list, but it's such a good movie that the horror that is here made a real impact on me when I was a kid. House 2. I get the feeling that this movie is kind of divisive among horror fans, and if you don't like House 2, I get it. I respect that a lot of horror fans probably wouldn't be into it, but I think it's a delight. Zombie cowboys, dimensional rifts into dinosaur lost worlds, and a giant caterpillar with a dog face. House 2 is probably overall the worst movie on this list, but as a training wheels horror movie, it might be one of the best. It has very goofy fantasy elements, but that's what I kind of fell in love with as a kid. It kind of reminded me of like DuckTales mixed with a horror movie a little bit. The horror is not truly scary, but it's very creative and very fun. So there you have it. I hope somebody got something out of this list. Obviously, it was kind of just an excuse for me to sit in the basement and wax nostalgic, but waxwork. That could have been on this list too. That's for next time. Speaking of next time, if you like these kinds of like quick list videos, let me know. I will make more. They're fun to do. But that's all I got for right now, so thank you everybody for watching. Obviously, all of the like, subscribe, bells, all that stuff. Please, thanks to the patrons. And remember that whether you are a dirty dog sleeping in the sun or an alley rat eating up the night, you are always welcome here at Hat Hole Home Video. Bye-bye.